Hello, and welcome to Mello's Non-Combat Interviews, where I interview different people associated with different non-combat aspects of Amtgard. Today, I am interviewing the lovely Master Crown, Ellefay. Thank you very much for coming on today, Ellefay. So, I would love to just do some introductions here before I start asking you, bombarding you with questions. How did you start in Amtgard?
My Amtgard journey is long and many years coming. I am married to Milk, and he has been in Amtgard for very many years. And from the time that we got together, 11-ish years ago, he's been trying to get me involved. And I was super reluctant. Anybody watching this who is really good friends with Milk knows that I like dug in my heels and I was like, no, I went to a few events. I did not have a great time, but I think it was more of a me issue. Like I was in my own head. I had personal stuff going on. I had just become a parent and just took a few years. I think he kind of gave up and was like, well, this is maybe just not for her. And then in March 2020, I think it was, we went to an event and I had a super great time. There's really not anything that, like, any one thing I can attribute that to other than people actually talked to me. And so I had a great time and I felt like I made connections. And so I wanted to go back for events and then started going to park and enjoyed that and made more friendships. So I came back for the friendships.
From your first time enjoying an event at Amtgard to now, how would you say that your role in Amtgard has evolved over the last
Well,
5 years?
I kind of jumped right in. So, in March, I went to the event, started going to park, and by June, I was on the board and I was my parks PM and just kind of started there. In that, like, in between time between March and June, I started doing paracord weaving. I tried out chain. It is not for me. And I also did social media for Pip while Pip was Monarch.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that you did social media for Pip when she was Monarch too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we did the Instagram and Twitter, and I think I made a link tree for the Kingdom, and I don't know how much it's even used anymore, but I did that for a few months, and that was really fun.
I kind of like to swing into general non-combat questions before I go into your crown work, and I'd also love to ask you about your ANS work.
Okay.
I think it's kind of not really a secret, but I think that so many people know you for your crown work instinctively that they don't realize you do paracord weaving, which you have a lot of really pretty things. I'd love to talk to you about some general non-com.
Okay.
So we know you do leadership and paracord weaving. So what else do you do in Amtgard that isn't considered, combat or fighting?
Mostly those things. Leadership, weaving. I have mentored a few others who are up and coming weavers as well. I really enjoy like behind the scenes work, things that help everything run smoothly. So like being PM, fabulous. Chef's kiss. I love it. I've also been regent of my duchy and I've assisted with kingdom level ANS competitions, even though I was not kingdom regent. They were just not available for whatever particular reason. And so I really enjoy organizing those competitions. And of note, like when I was first starting out at my park, there were a lot of times that I was told, like, well, we would really prefer to have a person with this skill set or this sort of experience be judging our ANS, which was like wild to me. And so when I was running kingdom level ANS competitions, I, yes, wanted some experienced people, but I also tried to find people who had not judged at the kingdom level before and just kind of walk them through what that was like, what we should be looking at, and making sure that it was like a learning process and not just like, hey, I want you to do this and here, go do whatever you want to do. And the scores we get are the scores we get.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting that you've talked about that because I think a lot of people they're kind of they want to know how to get more people interested in aspects of non-combat, but sometimes it can feel a bit difficult for, those wanting to increase the level of participation. So do you have any insights for that as well? I know you've mentioned, that you try to find judges who haven't done it at a particular level before.
I would say if there's something that you're interested in, find somebody that you know. If you have an overbelt, maybe your overbelt knows somebody. If you don't, or even just reach out to the person who's in kingdom leadership surrounding that area. So if you are interested in, running a battle gaming tournament, reach out to the kingdom champion. If you are interested in getting more involved in A&S and you don't know anybody in your park region is not sure, and you want to go above park level, reach out to the Kingdom Regent. There's always somebody who's going to be willing to help you get from point A to point B. You just need to find that person. And often, our kingdom leaders are the people who have gotten from point A to point B and are often very willing to, help you up that ladder and help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, would you say that mentorship is a big part of, those who want to see more, participation in non-combat? They should help foster newcomers, essentially, is what I'm trying to say.
I think it definitely helps. A lot of people in the non-combat community want more involvement in the non-combat community, and so mentoring people who are interested would definitely help to really bolster the non-combat community for sure.
So I'm going to kind of switch gears here with my next question. So you mentioned that you specifically do leadership and paracord weaving with, ANS when you're not judging and whatnot. So would you say that you would consider that your niche in Amtgard with, what you enjoy doing? Is there anything that you'd be interested in branching out to with other aspects of non-combat?
No, I would say this is probably more of my niche. I honestly, when I first started, I had a group of people that I asked, like, what are the best ways for me to get involved? And at the time, I did not see myself as creative or a crafter in any way. And I knew for sure that I didn't want to fight. And so leadership definitely, it's something that I do in my mundane life and I really enjoy. And so I knew that was a way that I would want to get involved, but I never would have imagined that I would craft. And so when I asked this group of people, I had somebody respond to me and say, well, given this information, there's not a place for you in Amtgard. And I was like, oh, okay. Other people in the group were like, absolutely false. Here are all the wonderful things that you could do. And so, based on that conversation, I did declare for local PM, really enjoyed it. Somebody was doing a crafting class. I did some weaving. I really enjoyed it. Turns out I really enjoyed crafting once I found weaving, but I've tried multiple other crafts and I'm like, no, I think that this is it. So I think that, yeah, I do all of the things I do because I enjoy them. I do try to branch out and like, ooh, let me try this new thing, but nothing else has stuck in the way that leadership, paracord weaving have for me.
Would you say, with the person who said that there wasn't really a place for you in Amtgard. So would you say that non-combat contributions in the game, like, how would you say that since you've begun versus now, how would you say that that has grown in the community, if it has?
I honestly don't know because I surround myself mostly with people who are very supportive of the non-combat community. And so I think that there's definitely more recognition just in seeing the event teams growing since March 2022, now including like non-comcrats and a lot of classes and ways to incorporate teaching on both the combat side and the non-combat side. I think that yes, there's definitely a little bit more. There's more like attention on those contributions. It could absolutely be more, but at the end of the day, a lot of people come to Amtgard for fighting. And so the addition of non-combat contributions are very important for just like vibes, right? Like vibes and also making it happen. I don't think that I think about like service and cratting. If we didn't have crats and we didn't have people who were literally just like working an entire event, we would not be able to have the tournaments and the battle games and the bridge battle that happen. They kind of go hand in hand. People come because they're like, ooh, hitting somebody with foam. That looks like fun. This looks great. People are dressing up and this looks so cool. But without the crafters who create the garb that looks so cool and all of the foam weapons that we are actually fighting with to make them legal for our game and organizing the tournaments and the events, none of that would even happen. And you would have to go find some other foam fighting game to engage in.
And I like how you pointed out as well that a lot of the crats and service people are non-combat. I think that that's really important to consider, especially with, leadership. And so I'm going to jump in now into your masterhood. For those who don't know, she received her very long overdue master crown recently. Congratulations. I would love to ask you some questions just about masterhood and what it means to you in general, but also specifically about Mastercraft. I mean, obvious, first question. What does receiving Masterhood mean to you personally?
I don't know if this is like a popular take, but I'm not here for the awards or the masterhood. I think that it's nice and I am grateful for the recognition of the things that I've been doing, but I am not doing them in order to get an award or obtain some pinnacle. I'm doing them because I enjoy them. And so to me, the masterhood is just like a thank you to everybody for recognizing the work that I did, but it's not like okay, I got this thing and now I'm just gonna quit because I enjoy what I was doing, and I enjoyed the whole path to get there. I learned a lot of things about leadership through board work specifically that I didn't even learn in my mundane leadership life. So I think I benefited as well, and learned a lot. I'm probably going to continue like declaring for the board in the future, taking a little time off. Right now it's mandated time off, but also it's like it's kind of nice. So, and it allows me to do things like this. And so I think that, it's something that I will continue doing regardless of what awards or recognition that I receive.
Did you have any leadership experience outside of Amtgard before doing this, or was jumping into the BOD and, park leadership, that kind of thing, was that more of a first step into leadership positions for you?
I do have a lot of experience in leadership outside of Amtgard. So I have been on three different nonprofit boards, usually so for one, as treasurer, one, I just helped plan like a large conference, and then the other one was for a dance studio. And so for all three of those, or for two of the three, they were like statewide organizations. And so I kind of had a little bit of experience with how to plan for like one state, but not multiple states. But I did learn a lot about business operations in those roles. And at the time that I took over or at the time, not that I took over, but at the time that I decided that I was going to go into leadership in Amtgard, I was directing a clinic for children on the autism spectrum. And so I was for a company that is also a nonprofit. And so I was privy to a lot of discussions about like, well, the liability of this is blah blah blah, and we need to be thinking about how this impacts all of our stakeholders. And so these were already conversation topics that I was familiar with, but it was very interesting to apply to Amtgard because I don't fight. I don't know the rules of the game. And so there were a lot of times, especially in the beginning, where I'd have to be like, okay, so I know what I would do for like a business, but a lot of you here know the game more than I do. So is this going to like, how is this going to actually impact the game if we do this thing? Um, and that was really cool to experience. I've learned more about the game. I still don't know the rules. So like I'll bean count every day, but I will never reave because I have no idea what's going on. Nobody wants me doing that.
And that's valid too. And it's really interesting to hear about your IRL experience with Amtgard. Sorry, I'm not sure what to call it. But it's really cool to see how you were able to apply that, to Amtgard. And also, wow, those are awesome organizations for being on board of directors for too. Like, that's really cool. What advice would you give to someone pursuing the crown path?
The biggest piece of advice that I would have is don't take it personally. When you are on the crown path, you have to be the voice of a lot of decisions that get made. And you know the behind the scenes of why those decisions were made. And then you have to communicate them to a huge group of people spanning so many different regions, so many different states that are all going to be impacted in different ways. And you can't make everybody happy. And there have been so many times that I've seen people step into leadership roles and I'm serving with them or near them. And it's like, well, I I don't know that people are going to like this, so maybe we shouldn't do it. I'm like, well, okay, that is valid. That it is valid, but how can we go about that? Like, can we maybe do a survey to see what people like? Or if this is something that absolutely has to happen, we need to make sure that we're communicating it clearly and the why, and people are still not going to like it. And that's okay. Like, it took me this long in my life to figure out that not everybody is going to like me and that's fine. And it's a tough one to learn. Like I'm in my late 30s and I'm just figuring it out. And so, if you are someone who is just freshly stepping into leadership, that is something that's going to come up time and time and time again, that somebody is mad at you for a decision that the group had to make for the betterment of the organization or of your park or of your Grand Duchy or of the kingdom because of, the site that we're working with or because of some rule that's new or something. And you just can't make everybody happy. That's the short version.
Yeah, so would you say that, like, with the skills you've developed on your path or that you've utilized, what are some of the ones that you would say you use the most?
I would say conflict resolution, yes. I think also problem solving. So, and not just problem solving, but being able to identify a problem early before it's like a huge issue. So, I think of the phrase like bring me smoke, not fires. Being able to recognize the smoke on your own too, not waiting for somebody to bring you the fire, but recognizing that smoke and going like, this could become a problem. Maybe we should get in front of that problem before it becomes a huge or like a very large issue. Flexibility is also a really big one that is really hard. But in my particular career path, my schedule has to change like multiple times in a day. I could have the perfect week planned and it doesn't go that way. And so I've had to learn that. And so I came in graced with that ability. But flexibility is a tough one coming into a leadership role for the first time as well. And good communication. That one also really tough for me. I tend to think out loud. And so my communication is not always the greatest. The great thing about a lot of Amtgard leadership operations, whether it's park level or kingdom level or board work, a lot of that is done electronically. So I can like think and then type what I want to say. And so I think that, having the ability to communicate, or if you have to communicate in person, being like, okay, I might ramble for a minute, but I promise I'm going to get to the place that I want to get to. That's really important in leadership roles as well, because you are having to communicate things to a larger group of people.
So speaking of nonprofit stuff, you mentioned that you were on the board of nonprofits and that you were also directing a clinic. I know you use that experience to kind of help you with, leadership in Amtgard, but what was your original motivation to get involved with leadership in Amtgard?
Be honest, a little bit of spite for that person who told me there was no place for me in Amtgard, but also because I attended a few board meetings and I knew that I had something to bring to the table. And so I just wanted to I declared not knowing if I would even get on because nobody really knew who I was other than like, hey, that's Milk's wife. And so at that time, I was like, well, I'll declare. I'm not sure if I'll get on the board or not, but if I do, it would be nice to have a fresh perspective. And I guess those two things motivated me. A little bit of spite and a little bit of I know that I do have something from my experiences to bring to the table, and I would like to share those things, but also learn more about the game that my husband has loved for so many years.
And that's valid too, like all of those reasons. How long is a usual BOD term?
So, BOD terms are 1 year. And you can run 3 consecutive terms if you want. And then at that point, there is a term limit, and you must take 1 year off before declaring again. You can't even be appointed during your 1 year off. So, unless it's like, I think it has to be like 1 or 2 months, like to finish somebody's term or something like that. So I did 3 consecutive terms on the board. And so I was on for 3 full years, and now I'm taking my year off. But in my year off, I committee. So I am continuing the work that we started on the 501(c)(3) committee and just making sure there's a consistent person to talk to the lawyer that the kingdom has engaged for that.
You also worked a lot with making sure that like BOD members have legal protections and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was
So
just
there is a type of liability insurance called directors and officers liability insurance. So it just helps to exactly what you said, protect the members of the board.
No, that's really cool because I did not know that was a thing. Like this whole time, like I knew that, oh, if someone comes after Amtgard, they could go after the BOD. So it's
Mhm.
really cool that you thought about insurance. Like,
I mean, it wasn't just me that thought about
oh
it,
yeah.
but yeah, I definitely helped with the legwork. I have a friend who's an insurance agent, actually in a different state, and he was like, "Actually, I know somebody that could help you in your state." It's like, "Great, okay, perfect." And so it's definitely something that helps with peace of mind. And there were a few people that, when there were board positions open, I would see in the comments like, well, if you don't have D&O insurance, which is the directors and officers insurance, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And I'm like, ooh, okay, this is something we really need to do because it had been on our to-do list for a while and just hadn't happened yet.
I think it's often things like that that people don't really consider or, when they think about the back end of things. So, was there a decision you made while in office that was difficult at the time, but ultimately the right one? Or what kind of decisions would you say that tends to be?
Anytime that anybody is elevated from a monarchy ban to a board ban, it might be the right decision, but I don't think that sometimes the decision is very clear, but it doesn't make it easy ever. It's the same with, giving somebody feedback or, something like that. It's clear that it needs to be done, but it's not easy to do. And sometimes even, I don't know how much people are aware of the process from like okay, you're banned by the kingdom monarch, and now, the board reviews that. And so, what that process looks like is that person has the option to come before the board and say, hey, I don't agree with this ban, or yeah, I agree with this ban, and, you know, I messed up. But they have the option to come and talk about what happened from their perspective to the board. And then from there, the board makes a decision to either, okay, yep, the kingdom monarch did their due diligence. This is not something that is a risk to our business or a legal liability, so we're just going to kind of leave it in the monarch's hands. Or like, wow, the monarch really didn't need to ban this person, so we're going to overturn that. That almost never happens. I've never had it happen in 3 years. And or the board says, wow, unfortunately, this decision that this person made is a business risk, is a legal liability to us. And so the board is now going to institute a ban as well. Anytime that there was an elevation, even if it was like, whoo, this is very clear. It's so black and white. It absolutely is. Maybe this person is convicted of a crime or something like that. You know, very, very obvious legal risk to allow somebody who is, if we're going out of like the rules of play, a registered sex offender cannot play our game. That is black and white in the rules of play. If somebody, for an example, if somebody who had that status came to the board, obviously we cannot go against our contract with Amtgard International and say, yes, this person can play. Does it make it easy to tell this person, hey, sorry, I know that you really enjoy this game, but no, no, it's not easy. So I would say any decision where you're having to tell somebody, no, you can't play, like, hey, you fucked up and now you can't do this thing that you enjoy, that just sucks. There's no way to make it better, even if it's right to do.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a really challenging situation. I mean, nobody wants to be the bearer of bad news.
No.
So, yeah. How do you encourage accountability and professionalism in a volunteer-based game like Amtgard?
Do you mean like layers or do you mean like
In
with other
office.
leaders in
Yeah.
office?
Yeah, like leaders, BOD, stuff like
A
that.
lot of times with the BOD, so I guess that's probably the best way that I could probably speak with the on the BOD more than anything just because of the number of years that I was there. But as far as professionalism goes, the BOD uses like a private Discord server, and you'll hear that referenced in the meetings. Like, we're going to the private Discord server for the closed session. Like, it's said, it's not a secret that it exists. And there are like fun channels so that, if you need to say something silly, you can. There have been a few times, and I'm thankful not many, that I've had to say, I'm not really sure that this is like appropriate for business chat. Maybe we should move that to like DM somewhere and don't tell me about it. Specifically while I was chair. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But if you want to have that conversation, here is not the place for that. As far as accountability goes, I think that the main way that I encouraged accountability while I was on the board was not only with other people I was serving with, but myself. So if I tabled something during a meeting, I automatically put it on the agenda for the next meeting. And if there was still nothing going on at the next meeting, I just put it on the agenda for the next meeting until there was something because I see what's right in front of me and not always what's on the side. And when I did join the board, what I found out in like the first few months was that there were so many things that people were passionate about that had been just kind of sitting there for years, 3, 5, 7 years, and nothing had happened. Take, for example, the 501(c)(3) transition. There was work done 5 years ago to get the ball rolling and just people, the leaders switch hands and nothing had come to fruition. There was work done. It just wasn't like consistent work done because the people who were passionate about it rotated out of office, or maybe, they became kingdom monarch, and that's really busy, and you certainly can't be talking to lawyers in that situation. You probably just don't have time for that. And so I think that encouraging accountability in myself and like modeling that definitely helped. But also, if people came to the meeting and said, "Yeah, I didn't read that document," I would say, "Okay, cool, we can just table it." I'm not gonna sit here and hash it out or wait for people to read it. I'm just gonna table it. And so then if somebody was like, "Wow, why has this been tabled so many months?" Well, maybe read it. And so, if this is something that this group is passionate about, then we will take the time to read it. And if we can't take the time to read it, that's also okay. It's okay to say, I just don't have the spoons for this right now. And I know that there have been a few times where, people have things going on in their personal life and they just say, I know I'm not going to take the time to read this, But I have worked with this group long enough that I trust you all to make the right decision. I'm just going to do what I can. And if I don't feel informed enough to vote, I'm not going to vote. But I trust that everybody else here will vote the way that they think is best. And so that's also okay and a perfect way to remain accountable to yourself. Hey, I mundane life is always going to take priority. And so, if you need to deal with mundane life, please do that. Nobody's mad about it. Accountability isn't about making sure people do every little possible thing that they should do. It's about just saying, I can't because, or even just, I can't right now. I don't need a reason. And just making sure that, things can continue to move as they need to, even with people needing to, hey, this meeting, I just can't come. I'm really sick. I can't even be there. And that's okay.
And I like how you specifically focused on accountability, not just, being accountable for your actions, like, yes, I did this thing, but also realizing that, you might not have the space for stuff, which I think is really important. A lot of people tend to joke about, burnout in Amtgard and stuff. So I think that's a really important thing to think about. So, thank you for answering my questions regarding leadership in the Crown Path. It was really cool to learn more about the BOD as well as your experience with it. So, I was wondering if you would like to talk about your paracord weaving.
Sure. I would always love to talk about paracord weaving, but not macrame cord because that shit hurts my fingers. I know some people really prefer it. I think it's like, for me, it's just a sensory thing. Like when I'm pulling on macrame cord, like it's more like, I don't even know, like it's more textured. The texture is
Yeah.
like more spaced out. Both of them are textured, but I just cannot do macrame cord. But and I know some people that are absolutely the opposite. They would prefer not to touch paracord, but man, I would love to, weave some macrame cord.
That's really cool. It's awesome that you specifically mentioned liking paracord more because I think it's Sir Xander who also does belt weaving, but he prefers macrame. So it's interesting to
Mhm.
kind of see the other end of that too.
Yeah.
So so how long have you been doing paracord weaving again?
I would say probably about 3-ish years.
You mentioned that you do them mostly for paragons, right?
Yeah, so I've done several Paragon sashes. I've also made some Knights belts that have actually been like given out at the ceremony, not just like, here's this cool gift I made you, but the person wanted to involve it in the ceremony. Most recently, I made a belt for air that was given during the ceremony, and then for TB's knighting, I I did like a collaborative project with Fig, who is also really close with TB. And so Fig did the actual belt, and then I added some belt favors to it, one to represent each of the current paths of knighthood that she holds.
Is there a specific one that you would say has been your most challenging one so far?
I absolutely hate and despise the Celtic weave. I dislike it. I've done it one time, and it was for TB, who is my overbelt. And I told her that it is an Ellefay original and it will never be made again because I absolutely despise it. If anyone ever wants to commission for that, fine, but I will probably charge a lot extra because I hate it. Ironically, though, like, the thing with that one, it's very hard to hold tension, and paracord and weaving in general, tension is very important. I do frequently use a chevron weave, which is also very difficult to hold tension, but for whatever reason, that one is okay for me, and I just can't stand the Celtic weave.
That's really interesting. So you would say that the chevron technique is one that you use often. Are there any other ones that you find that you like to use as well?
So I use a lot of single serpent and double serpent weaves because I have found that it's a lot easier to add embellishments to a belt or a sash that's made with those weaves. There's a little bit of extra space in there to use. And the chevron weave. But most often I am using macrame knotting, not to be confused with macrame cord, but like actual macrame knots, like to make like plant holders and things like that to create embellishments for the belts and sashes so that they're personalized for the person that I'm giving them to. I have gotten really good with using like tiny paracord to create letters. And so I made, when Milk was Kingdom Champion, he was kind of refreshing my memory on what had happened with the champion belt. You know, something has happened. We no longer have it. And so he had asked me, "Hey, can you just make me something that says champion on it?" And so I made a black belt that has like red on the outside, and then in silver I wrote champion down the side. So like I made each letter individually, and then I made it adjustable. I made it really long so that it could fit a variety of sizes. If you're like super teeny, you can wrap it around yourself multiple times so that it could be passed down from champion to champion if so desired. I don't know if it's still being used or if it or where it is, but it is a thing that exists. And that really helped me feel much more confident about creating letters. I had made like some round letters and things like that before. I've done some like O's, U's, things like that, but in really spelling out all the letters of champion, I was like, yes, this is my thing. I got this.
So, is there a dream project that you hope to do someday?
There is, but I don't want to like say too much about it because I just have this really amazing idea for a Paragon color sash that I've been sitting on for a while. And I really want to complete it and donate it to Kingdom Monarchy to give to a future recipient of that honor. And so I don't want to spoil it.
So, is there a different art or craft besides paracord weaving that you're interested in trying one day?
Maybe like cross stitching? Like, that's always been interesting to me, but I've never actually picked it up and tried it. I tried needle felting and I like that, but it's not something that I'm gonna like pick up and do all the time. And that's pretty much it, honestly.
That's cool. Yeah, cross stitching's pretty fun. I've done cross stitching before. Once you get into the rhythm of it, it's like really like therapeutic. It's really cool.
Nice. Hopefully there's a class one day, but if not, I know that there are a lot of like, you know, super easy cross stitching kits that you can get. So eventually I will get myself one of those.
Yeah, that's what I used. Etsy has a lot of different ones with
Oh,
a
cool.
lot of different styles you can do. So you can even get something that's, not traditional. If you don't want to do a cross stitch that looks like, a grandmother made it or something. Like,
Right?
sorry, that's what I think about because my
That's what I
grandmother
think about
also,
too.
yeah, my grandmother did cross stitching, so she made a bunch of like the traditional old style ones. But I like
Yeah,
seeing what people come up with. It's always fun.
I do too.
What inspires you as an artist?
Ooh, I don't really have a good answer for that. I just enjoy it.
Well, I mean, that's a good answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
if you
just
enjoy it. I
I
mean,
do. I just enjoy it.
so do you prefer teaching classes or attending?
So I really do like teaching a lot. So previously, before starting Amtgard, I was a ballet teacher. And so the one of the nonprofits that boards that I was on was for a dance studio, and then I was the director of a dance studio for a few years in West Virginia. And so I love teaching. Life has just prevented me from teaching. So I was gonna do stuff at Battle Cry this year, and UV knows life just went a little crazy, but I am excited to teach a class in the future. I do like attending classes because it's a low stress way of trying something new. And so that is how I have tried things such as crochet, chain, leather, not my things. I agree. It gives me a wonderful appreciation for the people who do those things, though. I am telling you, like, if I had to just like stamp out like one more little hole in this belt pouch that we did at Park, I was like so frustrated. And it gives me so much respect for anybody who does leatherworking.
Yeah. Also, same. That is me with chain. Shout out to Echo the Kenku from Keep on the Borderlands. I tried doing chain, And I got so frustrated, I had to dearly put it down and walk away because I was like, I thought I was doing it right, fam, but apparently I managed to do it sideways. I don't understand chain. It's like 4D chess. I don't know what I'm doing with it. It's just, and
It's
then
really
gore.
interesting because it takes like very small like hand movements and I do not have like my hands are overly flexible, especially my fingers. And so it's just really difficult for me to like move my hands in the way that I'm supposed to. I can't even use chopsticks because of it. And so if I can't use chopsticks, I certainly am not going to be able to like pinch and manipulate these tiny little pliers on these little itty bitty pieces of chain. But the reason I find it so interesting is because like paracord weaving also involves your fingers. And so I don't know why it doesn't exacerbate like the root of the super flexible fingers. So, pulling for tension is not as tricky as going like this and moving and like pinching and things like that.
It's really interesting that you mentioned how paracord doesn't exacerbate that, but I'm glad that you found something that, works with you and, how you're able to do art and stuff. So that's really cool. Do you have a favorite A&S tourney style?
Hmm, not really.
Not really.
The reason I say not really is because I haven't really actually participated in very many ANS tournaments. I have been asked to run Dragon Masters and Kingdom Quals. And so the regents had like a general idea, hey, I want it to be like this, but you can create what you want to create, just send it to me and I'll give it a green light for you. But if it's a Kingdom Dragon Master, I'm not going to be creating some like brand new tourney style or anything. So I can't say I really have a favorite because I've only entered one thing ever. And then I've just run tournaments that have like a semi-rigid format. And to that, I will just say I have 9 dragons and I've only entered one thing in anything. So something I hear a lot is like, well, I need to enter this so that I can get whatever award next. And so the reason I haven't gotten it is because I haven't entered anything. And to that, I will say, like, not necessarily. You just need to make sure that people get eyes on it and make sure that it gets to the right people. Cough, cough, the kingdom regent, or the regent of your Grand Duchy, or the regent of your park. Even if you don't feel comfortable like putting yourself out there and posting it on your own Facebook or sending it to them, send it to somebody you trust who does know that person and let them help you because you can absolutely like progress through the serpent path with word of mouth and sharing pictures and just gifting things like awards, sashes, things like that that are getting recognition anyway.
Yeah, like I am also at my ninth dragon, and most of my dragons have been from award making. So
Nice.
it's also awesome to see that, other people have, done it with sashes and stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I just love weave sashes. There's just something so pretty about them. I'm like, "Neat." So, thank you for talking about your experience and stuff. So, I also have some lighter questions that
Okay.
aren't like having you, reconsider doing this interview.
I'm not reconsidering.
It's just about, community, culture, stuff like that. What cultural aspects keep you coming back to Amtgard?
Friendship, to friendship. I think that some people would say drinking, but I'm not a huge drinker anymore. But I think what's really nice is that over the last few years, there's been a lot more like acceptance and like I guess like accommodation for a variety of different people. And so like the fact that I'm no longer a big drinker is not a huge deal. Like I still hang out with people and I go into places and I don't feel pressured to like do something or act in a certain way. I think it's really nice that the community has become so accepting of a large variety of people because we are so diverse as a community. If we did not do that, we would sink and no longer exist. So I think it's wonderful to see the community like rising to that.
You just mentioned diversity. and I completely blanked on asking you questions regarding your DEI work in Amtgard. So
That's
I was
okay.
wondering if maybe you'd want to talk about that or.
Yeah. So actually I there's not a lot. I think that this really kind of sparked from a person who I was working with who had a difficult time at gate at an event not super long ago because there were some like sensory difficulties and also like anxieties around not knowing what to expect. And I also experience a lot of anxiety about things that are unknown, but I also see a lot of that in Amtgard. And so one thing I did after that, I talked with that person about, what would have made this situation easier for you? What would have made this better? And they had said like having a packet that just like outlined everything that I would need to know about, that the wristband has to actually be like, wrapped and attached to something. That, this is what the location for Feast looks like. This is what the general store looks like. This is what the pavilion looks like. Because everything is so spread out at Billy Creek. And then just, if we go to another site, having that done for the other sites. Something else that I've been thinking about a lot is, you know, finding things that we could buy in bulk that are relatively inexpensive that could assist with making our kingdom events a little bit more inclusive or like tolerable in times that might be not so tolerable. A prime example that I think of is court gets so freaking loud. And so anybody that has like an auditory sensitivity, court is probably a nightmare for them. It is not a nightmare for me, but I will say that like my son, when he comes to court, he cannot hang. He just can't. He has to leave. It's way too loud. He can feel it vibrating in his chest and it's just too much. And so I think if we could, do something like buy bulk earplugs and have them available. Save them for people that truly need them, but have them available because you never know when you're going to show up at Kingdom Court and you maybe are like recovering from an ear infection and maybe you wouldn't usually need them, but today you really do. And so that is part of the proposal that I want to put together and will be putting together within the next year because I want to make sure that we remain inclusive and become even more inclusive than we already are.
Yeah, that's what I was mainly thinking about besides Welcome Packet because I remember you mentioning that a while ago, so I figured that I'd ask about it because
I'm glad you did
yeah.
because every time that I hear about it, I'm like, I let this ball drop. This is one of those like being accountable to yourself. I let
Mhm.
this ball drop and I need to pick it back up.
Yeah. And I also really love how you focus on different aspects of inclusivity as well that not a lot of people think about. So that's inspiring to me as someone who likes to focus on that kind of stuff.
Oh, thanks.
So do you have any specific Amtgard related traditions that you like to do? Like anything you do at events or whatnot?
Well, at most events, we camp in a quiet area, which is nice and also very quiet. And one of our friends who used to play Amtgard with Milk will come and hang out with us. So I have the option to like go be part of all of the things if I would like. And I also have the option to just sit at camp with friends, particularly like this one friend that comes and camps with us is not involved in Amtgard. And so if I'm like, "Ooh, I'm having like there's just too much happening. I need like a 5 minutes of like no amped guard right now." I can just go to my camp, sit at the fire, eat some pepperoni from over the fire that he has made, and talk about anything but amped guard so I can go back to it and enjoy seeing all of the people that I really only get to see at events.
That's really sweet. I like how y'all include your non-Amtgard friends, and I think that's really nice.
Yes.
That sounds
Now
so
that's
nice.
misleading. He is kind of an Amtgarder. Like he has a persona name and he's made awards recently and has received
Oh.
awards for those awards. So, we're trying to like rope him back.
Slowly but surely.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I really like how you're including him and also, how you know that you have a friend that you can go to when you're just Amtgarded out.
Yeah.
That's so cute. I love that. I'm just going to kind of do some closing questions now. So, what's one lesson that you've learned from Amtgard that you carry with you?
I have learned that if you find your people, there's a space for you anywhere. So there was a long time where I was coming out and just not vibing at all and did not want to participate. And then I found people who talked to me and included me, and it made me want to become more involved. And so I think that I can't just give one lesson, I have two. One, your experience in a space can be whatever you want it to be. You do not have to fit into a box that somebody else tells you exists. Your experience is what you want. And two, I think that I have taken away from my experience with, Milk trying so hard to get me involved and just making sure that I am including other people. I'm very shy, but I try really hard to, like, if I see somebody and they have nobody to talk to, like, just saying hi, because you might be the reason that somebody else sticks around that wants to participate in Amtgard in general, in maybe the non-com space, maybe as a fighter, it could be somebody totally valuable to our group that might never come back if nobody speaks to them. And so that is something else that I have learned through the many years of Milk trying to get me to play and participate, and then finally saying, "Yep, okay, I got this."
Are there any like closing remarks or any like final words of advice that you'd want to give to anyone, interested in the non-combat side of Amtgard or, who are just getting into it? No. Well,
Sorry, I'm terrible.
oh, that's good. I prefer honesty over someone being like, yeah, I've got advice, and then just blanking for like 20 minutes.
I
You know?
don't, because honestly, the advice that I would give is probably going to be like tailored to that person and their interests. And so I
Yeah.
don't really have like blanket advice for somebody wanting to get into the space. But if somebody does want to get into the space, I would encourage them to talk to somebody already in it and try to problem solve like the things that they are interested in, how to apply those things to the game. That is what helped me the most. And honestly, like, huge shout out to not only my husband Milk, but Pip for really like Pip has a list, like a Google Doc with a list of ways that you can participate in Amtgard. If you haven't interviewed her yet, ask her about it. So Pip has a list, and that list was really helpful to me. But also, there are things that are not necessarily captured on a list, right? Like if you have something you're really passionate about outside of the game and you're looking for how to get involved, there is probably a way that that could tie into something in game, or you can create something in the game. It doesn't have to already exist. And so I think that in lieu of blanket advice, I would just say, find somebody in the space to talk to and help you find where your skills and your passions fit into this space. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm sure anybody you're interviewing is happy to talk to anybody. And so hopefully this whole process is going to give people some faces that they can approach if they are wanting to get more involved.
Thank you very much for allowing me to interview you tonight. I've really
Thank you.
enjoyed learning more about the BOD and about your contributions, not only in Crown and leadership, but also your DEI efforts as well. So I really appreciate your time out tonight, and thank you very, very much. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you'd like to hear more about non-combat participants in Amtgard, consider clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. This lets me know you like my content and would like to listen to more in the future. If you would like someone specific to be interviewed, or you'd like to have me interview you, please reach out to my Discord server at Ellefay or message me on Facebook using my real name, Megan McLean. Thank you!